If you are planning a kitchen remodel this year, stop right now because you are walking blindly into a trap designed to drain your bank account. Look closely at the cabinets directly above your stove. If your home is more than a few years old, you already know exactly what you will find. A dull, yellowish tint that seems to absorb the light. A sticky, tacky texture that grabs onto dust and refuses to let go. You have probably stared at those doors and felt a sinking sense of defeat. You assume the paint is permanently deteriorating. You assume the original protective finish is rotting away beneath your fingertips. And inevitably, you reach the exact conclusion that a $66 billion industry desperately wants you to reach. You think it is time for a massive, expensive replacement. The modern kitchen renovation machine thrives on this exact moment of domestic surrender. Contractors will gladly quote you $5,000 just to glue cheap laminate over your existing frames. Full structural replacements routinely shatter the $25,000 mark before labor is even factored in. Even hiring a local professional merely to repaint those sticky doors will drain thousands of dollars from your hard-earned savings. But what if those expensive professionals are silently leveraging a fundamental scientific truth? What if your cabinets are not actually ruined at all? To understand the sheer scale of this financial drain, you must first understand the physics of everyday cooking. Every single time you heat cooking oil in a pan, it undergoes a radical physical transformation. At roughly 350 degrees Fahrenheit, liquid fats begin to vaporize. They explode into a microscopic, entirely invisible fog of airborne lipids. This vaporized grease rides the thermal heat currents rising directly from your burners, drifting upward and outward through the room. It settles softly onto your overhead light fixtures. It coats the texture of your ceiling, and most heavily, it clings to the vertical faces of your wooden cabinets. For the first few weeks, this microscopic layer is completely undetectable to the human eye. But as the months turn into years, a relentless chemical reaction takes place in the dark. Constant exposure to oxygen and ambient kitchen heat forces those loose oil molecules to cross-link. They chemically bond to one another, forming an interlocking grid of impenetrable molecules. This biological process is called polymerization. The oil does not merely dry, it fundamentally changes its molecular state. It hardens into a dense, plastic-like resin. It fuses itself directly into the microscopic pores of your factory paint. This polymerized shell is exactly what gives your cabinets that permanent, sticky, amber-colored hue. And it is the precise reason why every store-bought cleaner you have ever purchased has completely failed you. You spray standard window cleaners. You scrub with highly marketed kitchen sprays. You tear through boxes of abrasive melamine sponges until your knuckles bleed. Nothing works, and the yellow stain remains untouched. But this is not because you are doing it wrong, and it is not because the stain is permanent. These commercial degreasers are formulated exclusively to dissolve fresh, liquid lipids with low alkaline solutions. They are chemically incapable of breaking down the hardened, cross-linked carbon bonds of a polymerized resin shell. You are essentially trying to melt solid plastic with mildly soapy water. The contractors know this. The professional painters know this. They know that resting safely just beneath that ugly, hardened yellow shell, your original factory paint is completely flawless. They know they are about to charge you thousands of dollars to replace a pristine surface simply because it is wearing a dirty coat. Because there is a way to shatter those cross-linked carbon bonds. There is a single, highly reactive compound that obliterates decades of polymerized grease on contact. It costs barely $4 at your local hardware store, but if you want to find it, you have to look past a highly coordinated, decade-old corporate smokescreen designed to make you believe it was illegal. The chemical compound that threatens the entire kitchen remodeling industry is not hidden in a secure underground laboratory. It is sitting quietly on the bottom shelf of your local hardware store's paint prep aisle, packaged in a plain, unassuming cardboard box. It is called trisodium phosphate. Most industry insiders simply refer to it as TSP, and its raw molecular power relies on a chemical threshold that no grocery store cleaning spray is legally allowed to cross. TSP registers aggressively high on the pH scale, sitting well above a 12 in its alkaline intensity. When this hyperalkaline solution makes contact with the hardened, polymerized grease on your cabinets, it triggers a violent molecular reaction called saponification. It does not merely wipe the surface, it invades the microscopic structure of the hardened resin. It actively breaks the cross-linked carbon bonds holding the grease together. It forces the hardened, plastic-like shell to mutate into a soft, water-soluble soap. Within seconds, decades of impenetrable grime simply rinse away with plain, warm water. Underneath that dissolved barrier, your original factory paint is waiting, completely pristine and blindingly bright. Professional painters have guarded this reality as an elite trade secret for generations. When a contractor charges you $3,000 to repaint your ruined cabinets, their very first step is to wash the doors with a TSP solution. They watch the yellow grease melt away. They see the flawless, perfectly intact original paint emerge. And then they sand it down and paint over it anyway, because that is the only way they can legally justify their massive invoice. So, why has no one told you about this? How does a century-old $4 miracle powder vanish from the public consciousness? To answer that, we have to look back at the legislative panic of 2010. In the late 2000s, environmental scientists noticed massive, destructive algae blooms suffocating American lakes and rivers. The primary culprit was phosphorus runoff entering the municipal water supply, and the largest domestic source of that runoff was everyday household automatic dishwasher detergent. By 2010, 17 states including Washington, Pennsylvania, and New York passed strict, sweeping laws banning phosphates in dishwashing products. Major corporations were suddenly forced to dramatically reformulate staple kitchen products like Cascade and Electrosol overnight. The national news media ignited a sensationalized frenzy. Headlines blasted the warning that phosphates were toxic, environmentally devastating, and completely banned from American homes. But the media broadcasts missed one crucial, highly specific legal detail. The legislation only applied to daily use automatic dishwasher detergents. It never applied to heavy-duty, standalone surface preparation cleaners. TSP was never outlawed. It remains completely legal and heavily stocked in all 50 states to this day. But the public perception was already deeply cemented in fear. Everyday homeowners assumed all phosphate-based cleaners were illegal or incredibly dangerous, tossing out generations of inherited DIY knowledge. And the $66 billion home renovation industry watched this massive public misunderstanding happen, and they chose to remain dead silent. Why would they ever correct the record? You cannot patent a basic chemical compound that has existed in the public domain for a century. You cannot repackage it as a luxury premium brand. You cannot trap a homeowner into a recurring monthly subscription model for a box of powder that lasts for 50 cleaning jobs. A product that permanently solves a $25,000 problem for $4 is a direct, existential threat to an economy built on your frustration. What cannot be monetized must be forgotten. And so, the industry let you forget. They let you believe your cabinets were rotting. They let you sign the 5-figure invoices. But reclaiming your kitchen from this predatory cycle requires far more than just running out to buy a box of powder. Because extreme alkaline power comes with severe, unforgiving risks. If you mix this chemical with the wrong temperature water, or if you apply it to the wrong type of kitchen finish, you will not just dissolve the grease, you will instantly, irreversibly strip the paint right off the wood. The line between a flawless factory restoration and a catastrophic chemical mistake is razor thin. You must respect the science of the compound. Walk into your local hardware store and bypass the aisle of brightly colored, expensive cleaning sprays entirely. Navigate directly to the heavy-duty paint preparation section. You are looking for the authentic, uncompromised TSP powder. Do not buy the phosphate-free substitutes that stores conveniently place right next to it. They completely lack the extreme alkaline violence required to shatter the polymerized resin shell. Fill a heavy plastic bucket with exactly 1 gallon of water. The water must be incredibly hot to the touch, but absolutely never boiling. Boiling water supercharges the chemical reaction. It turns a controlled precision degreaser into a devastating paint stripper in seconds. Add precisely 2 tablespoons of the crystalline powder into the hot water. Stir the mixture slowly until the water turns slightly cloudy and every single crystal is utterly dissolved. Now, you must prepare yourself. You are handling a highly reactive compound with a pH level sitting above a 12. You must put on thick, heavy-duty rubber gloves. You must wear protective eyewear. If this hyperalkaline solution sits on your bare skin for too long, it will cause severe chemical burns. Dip a dense, clean sponge into the cloudy water. Wring out the excess liquid until the sponge is damp, not dripping. Press it firmly against the darkest, yellowest section of your cabinet door. Begin moving your hand in tight, deliberate, circular motions. The reaction is terrifyingly fast. You will literally watch the sponge turn a deep, muddy brown almost immediately. Decades of polymerized cooking oil will shatter and dissolve on contact. Every Thanksgiving dinner, every Sunday morning breakfast, every meal ever cooked in that room. It all melts away in seconds. Swipe the dissolved sludge away with a single motion. Staring back at you will be the brilliant, blindingly white original factory finish. But you are not done yet. You must immediately take a separate, clean cloth, completely soaked in plain water. Wipe the restored door down thoroughly. This critical step neutralizes the extreme alkalinity and stops the saponification process dead in its tracks. Now, here is the absolute truth that separates genuine experts from internet snake oil salesmen. This molecular miracle has distinct, unforgiving limitations. It works phenomenally on factory-painted cabinets, which account for the vast majority of modern American kitchens. But if your cabinets are crafted from raw, natural wood and finished with a delicate, clear varnish, do not use this. The brutal alkalinity will aggressively strip the protective stain right out of the wood grain and ruin the finish. Furthermore, if your paint is already physically cracking, actively flaking, or chipping away to reveal bare wood underneath, no chemical powder on earth will save it. TSP annihilates grease, but it cannot regenerate physically destroyed paint. But for the millions of homeowners staring at dingy, sticky, yellowed cabinets, assuming their paint has failed, it hasn't. You are simply looking at dirty armor. The $66 billion industry relies entirely on you never learning the difference between dirt and damage. They need your ignorance to fuel their staggering profit margins. It is time to stop writing massive checks for problems that cost exactly $4 to solve. Share this video to collapse the lie. And for more suppressed, professional-grade survival and home restoration secrets, subscribe to The Clever Prepper.